The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from the Rockingham Speedway, LSRTV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2018 Upstate Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Pro Late Model Series on your home for sim racing at iRacing Live, where tonight we head to Richmond County, North Carolina, and from the Rock. First race on the 2018 side of the calendar, and the second to last race before the chase begins, as we welcome you inside the LSRTV booth. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside with Mr. Austin Coop. Topside downstairs is the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza. And Coop, we get back to this thing after a couple of weeks off. Haven't gone points racing in nearly a month because we had the All-Star race to close out the 2017 side of things, but we're coming back with a vengeance tonight at Rockingham, 1 week's time from Langley's Raceway, and then we will be into the chase. So it is very much go time. The guys who pretty much are going to be up front fighting for the win here tonight, they're probably good on points, but a big focus, more so than what it's been all season long up until this point, is going to be those drivers that ride around a mid-pack, try to make the top 10 cut, hope maybe they can fight for a championship in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and each race as it's been throughout the season. I mean, this is a short schedule for the first 10 races. I mean, this isn't the longest season you'll see out there, but I think it's an appropriate size for what these guys are doing. But you start looking at the points, you're going to see drivers out there that really need to focus and really attempt to just get past that cut line or defend it. Two drivers, Game A. Fortin and AJ Hamill, they're 1 point away from each other, but they're in. And then you've got Mike Holtzclaw and Brian Rogers Jr. They're 1 point away and they're out. And then they've got Rex Hoyle right behind him. So those are kind of the five drivers. And I guess you could throw Scott Naslin and James McIntyre Jr. If they have bad races, they're going to be right in that area as well. Take a look at the full points in a little bit, but yeah, like you said, it's gonna be less about kind of our front runners like normal, but it'll probably be more about them tonight in some regards. But I think that's gonna just be the way it is till we get to the next part of the season.
And tonight is the 9th race of the season. We have seen 4 different drivers take home wins on this 2018 campaign. So far, Stefan Beranek, your championship leader, has 3 of them. So does rookie Matt Cucker, who is at the top of the rookie standings, obviously. And also then one would appease to both Sean Cool, who is 2nd in the championship, and Jake Watson, another rookie, who is 5th overall. So no wins for the drivers outside of the top 10 chase positions, which is why I say that I think it's going to be, knocking off those top 10 results at a week-by-week basis, not only just in these next 2 weeks to get there, but also if those drivers can, for some of them maybe not necessarily win races week in and week out, maybe steal one here or there, but just get solid results and keep that car in one piece all the way to the checkered flag, they will have a legitimate opportunity to make some damage once we get into that chase, which starts in a couple of weeks' time. But we get set to go racing for 100 laps tonight from Rockingham in the Coach's Quarter 100. Tonight's race brought to you by Coach's Quarter. Newly opened in South Glen Falls, New York, Coach's Quarter is locally owned and family operated by Coach C himself. Open 7 days a week, 7 to 2 p.m. and open late on Thursdays all the way till 8 in the evening. You can stop by today because there's no place like home. So big thanks to Coach's Quarter for being a presenting sponsor in this one. Cars are on track. Let's head down trackside and take a look at your LSRTV start starting grid. Pole position in this one does go to the driver at the top of the championship. Stefan Beranek with a 24.768 will bring us to the green flag tonight, accompanied by the number 20 of Justin McDuff. Outside in the number 2 position, he's a driver who's looking to make his way into the chase. Right now about 40 points out of a transfer position. Matt Cucker, there you go, third in the championship. He will start third tonight on the inside of row 2. He's accompanied by the 96 of Al Smith Jr., who will roll off at 4th, and AJ Hamill starts P5.
Then you've got Jake Watson. He'll start in the 6th position, looking to improve from 5th on the point standings tonight. You've got Mike Sklar. He is in that last position, or that first position out of the top 10, so he's in 11th in points. And you got Nicholas Rasmussen, defending champion. Alex Oriens, he'll start in the 9th position. Then James McIntyre Jr., he's going to start 10th.
It on through 11th position. It goes to Guillaume Fortin. 12th spot belongs to Scott Naslund in the 33 car. 13th tonight belongs to Rex Hoyle. That'll put him on the inside of row 7. Outside that row, and 14th spot is Brian Rogers Jr. And then Dan DeBoot rounds through the top 15.
Michael Woodring starts in the 16th position. Then you've got Wayne McDuff. 17th, Mark Royer. 18th, and Andreas Lambert starts 19th, and Jay DeBuke starts in the 20th position tonight.
That's a complete look top to bottom of your LSRTV starting grid. We talk a little bit about this Rockingham Speedway racetrack. Clocks in at just over a mile in length, at 1.017. Means that as we go racing tonight for 100 laps, we will go 101.7 miles in between the drop of the green and the checkered flag. It is a 22 degrees of banking on the inside and 25 topside, so some progressive banking is found on this D-shape asphalt oval. This racetrack has been around for quite some time, opened up way back in 1965, so it is a very rough surface, definitely, which is something that is, I think, going to be a factor in this one. And Rockingham's a very unique racetrack, and it doesn't take a scientist to figure that one out, Coop. You just look at it from straight down, and it does have a very unique shape, almost like, you know, the way Phoenix is, just the dog legs kind of to the front straightaway. It's not a perfectly curved D on the front, but it is a very fun track, tight in the corners, always brings exciting racing, and despite the fact that it's one of the bigger tracks we go to, I think it'll still be close quarters action.
Yeah, definitely. These late models will have to be very careful when they get in the corners, because this is a very rough surface that these guys will be driving on. They've raced on rough surface, but not at these speeds. So with the air temperatures and the tires getting up to speed as they go green here shortly, just wait for a couple laps, and I think these guys will get really racy.
Again, 100 laps at a racetrack like this is no guarantee. You got to be able to make it to the end if you want to walk away with a shot at the win. Pace car down and in. Eric Kenneth on green flag flies. We are racing from the rock. The coach's corner 100, and side by side for the race lead. First time at 1 and 2. Marinak pole sitter inside will get the upper hand, but he got sideways that time at 2, and McDuff gonna fight back.
Yeah, I got a piece of the apron right there, the piece of that yellow line, and it's going to work if he keeps on it, but you can just see those cars get a little bit higher at turn number 1 or turn 3 and 4, just right there. Matt Cucker did not do that at all, so for those first 2 drivers, they both went up the track a significant amount, and remember, they still have the tires, the limited tires that they have, so move Matt Cucker up a position, move Justin McDuff down 1, and Justin McDuff is defending position by going to the low lane to right there, and it'll be Stefan Marinak and Matt Cucker, who not really surprised to see them up front at the very beginning of this race, but definitely those 2 are showing the way as it stands. Top 5 actually looks like top 10 is now single file.
And that's going to be a part of this thing, is it is a little bit of a bigger racetrack, so when you get into a battle, it'll be nice and tight. Spreading out is going to be crucial as these drivers try to work themselves throughout this very long race. When you talk about miles-wise, most of these races we're barely getting 40-some-odd miles between the start and the end, and it is a long way around this racetrack as well. I mentioned Baranak's pole qualifying lap was a 24.768. Those times getting it up towards and exceed 25 very quickly once you get a couple of laps on the tires, so it is no quick run around this place either, but I think almost top to bottom in the complete field. Single file, couple of tight exchanges, including a fight with maybe for third shortly. Justin McDuff lost that position to Matt Cucker after he put up a great challenge on the start of this race, but he's got Al Smith Jr. tucked up behind him, and it is a big pack of cars from there on back with Hamill and Watson in the picture as well.
Yeah, and realistically, Al Smith Jr. can't wait behind. Look at the battle behind. It's going to be AJ Hamill, Jake Watson diving underneath him right there in the number 88 machine. You can barely see his number right there, but that's the number 88 machine right there on the bottom side of the 18 of AJ Hamill. Hamill able to keep on the outside, but the big dive from the 88 in turn number 1, I think he just let him go right there. Is definitely going to give the 88 a big advantage right there. And hey, he's been fast so far. It's going to be his first position, though, tonight.
Also talking about the order in which everybody started this race, Guillaume Fortin was hit with an end of the longest line penalty, which obviously hurts him not only in this race but also in the championship stand-ins, coming into tonight only second in 9th place overall out of the 10 drivers who make it into the chase. So he dropped the back. He's already up to 14th position, 3 spots more, and he'll be back to where he started, but obviously that hurt him trying to get out of the gate quickly and get off into a running start per se in this race. He's also at a very big pack. I was talking about that maybe 3-4 car pack up, third on back. You have the very similar situation from James McIntyre Jr. in 9th on a back. This is just a little bit over 3 seconds off your race leaders. Yes, they are single file, but you're talking about barely a car length in between Holtzclaw and Hoyle and Rogers. I think everybody in this pack just kind of waiting for the guy in front of them to make a mistake. Very high speeds at this kind of a track makes it a little bit more difficult maybe to set somebody up and to make a pass on them.
Yeah, and someone I really want to look at is Scott Naslund, who's got about 4 positions in this race. And you'd say 4 positions isn't a whole lot, but realistically, he went from that in a short amount of time at this track, and you don't get any tires at this race. So that's what you're stuck with, and he's a driver who's really coming through the field. I think that we'll have to watch that later on in the race, because if this goes green on the way, it might be a really good idea, but if we get any cautions and slow down the action, but the fact that he's really running those tires down, it could hurt him in the long run, but don't really see any too tight close action except for maybe around, looks like Alex Orions right in front of him, Mike Holtzclaw and Brian Rogers Jr., and those two fighting is pretty important as well, as they are going to try and rout the number 22 of Mike Holtzclaw out of turn number 4.
And Rogers is going to be able to complete the pass for 11th. Noted that it is a progressively banked racetrack that tends to lend the guys up on the outside of the racetrack a little bit of an upper hand as far as trying to play defense, but it definitely showed it early. Bottom is the place to be. The 12 made the pass, and a mistake that time. Holtzclaw pushed it too far up the hill, tags the fence, and you see both the 9 and the 13 sit on the inside of the racetrack. So Orion's going to go to 12th. Fortin going to jump back up to 13th as he continues to try to march his way back to the front, and a tough couple of laps for Holtzclaw, loses 3 positions in 2 times around.
Yeah, and this really isn't what he needed. He was only 14 points behind before this race to AJ Hamill. Hamill finds himself in 5th, very comfortable pole position, and Guillaume Fortin was the next driver. He just happens to be right in front of him, so he's got a lot of work to do in this race and next week if he can help it, because of the fact that he is the next driver, or the one driver out so far, and then you got Brian Rogers Jr., who's also got around. So between these drivers, those are the 4 we said beforehand that we needed to look at. And Mike Holtzclaw, he's going to need to try and find some speed here. It looks like Guillaume Fortin tried on the inside of Alex Orions, but Orions, he cut them off right there and did not let him around. And Alex Orions has had a very, I'm not exactly sure what the right word is for it, but he's had a up and down season. He had the pole, I think, two races ago, and was not able to back it up, and it's been so close, but has had some bad luck this season.
Finds himself well out of the championship picture, and not that, he's intentionally trying to, mess with a guy like Guillaume Fortin, but I don't think there's any reason for the 9 car to just pull over and get out of his way. If we're talking about a race in 2 weeks' time when we are inside of the chase, maybe you'll lend somebody like that a tad more space, but you can see the 9. Yes, he's leaving the inside open for the 13, but he's not letting him set up on his way into the corner. So the 13 machine, I'm sure, is getting a little bit frustrated because Holtzclaw has closed back into his back bumper. Meanwhile, up front with the 20, Justin McDuff. Problems for the driver in 3rd. Justin McDuff caught the left side tires on the apron and spun at a turn number 2 into the inside wall, and no caution. Tough break for a driver who was running so good, and as I noted earlier, came into tonight needing a big boost in the points. This is almost going to completely take him out of the championship picture.
Yeah, he was 54 points out. He needed 2 good races back-to-back, and sadly, I don't think that's going to happen for him tonight, as he is now over 2 laps, or he's over a lap down now, which is going to be extremely hard to come back from. So, not what he wanted to see, and it's realistically our first bit of action, aside from some of the early side-by-side battles we were having earlier. As you saw it on your screen, he just hit the apron and turned him around. It was just... We talked about earlier with Stefan Marinak having touched the apron, and it was just a little bit that got him sideways, and he was still able to go. But when the tires get the pressure and get hot and get slick, it's not a similar story as you just saw there. So, speaking of Marinak and company, Matt Cucker is getting close to him. He's not there yet, and he's been closer, but that lead is getting a little bit smaller on the average of these laps.
It was a little bit over half a second for the better part of this run. Last time by down to 0.35 seconds. Stefan Marinak's 25.362 compared to the 25.334 by Cucker, I think is very resemblant of how this run has gone for them. Cucker has been a little bit quicker, and yes, you're talking about like 2/100ths per lap, but over time, it does add up, and without caution, up until this point now, 19 and now 20 laps in the works from Rockingham Speedway. It's allowed Cucker to bring himself into the picture, as I noted at the top, with these 2 drivers with 3 wins apiece. And yes, when we do get through these 10 races on the regular season, we will reset the points, and you are going to get some bonus points for those wins, but they're not going to have as big as of effect. But Marinak comes into tonight an overall 46 points above Cucker. You do have to keep in mind that the 69 did miss a start at this point, so even though these guys are surefire locks for the championship, this race still means a lot to them, because they kind of see this as already sizing each other up for when it comes down to the 5-race playoff.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you right there. These guys, I think these are going to be 2 guys that you're probably talking about at the very end of the season, Evan. These guys have been so strong. They've been dominant. I don't think we saw this last season when we saw 2 drivers just really locking it in just about every other week. But when we have 8 races and you've got 6 of them going to 2 drivers, it's a pretty stout accomplishment, and you've definitely got them going. But let's talk about that more. Talk about Cucker, who just had a really good run at turn number 2. He's really putting the pressure on Stefan Marinak, who climbs up the track just a little bit. Looks like he's going to be right on his tail, really close to Stefan Marinak right now, as he's continuing to kind of lurk in the distance. Only 1 car length now.
And my concern was, once Cucker gets up to the back of Marinak, do we see other guys group in? When we see those groups of cars, it's because somebody's having an issue getting around the guy in front of them. That slows them down, and it kind of checks up, and you see a big train forming. These top 2 are way out in front of everybody else at 1.8 seconds back to Jake Watson in 3rd. So they have plenty of racetrack to work with, as far as just being able to find it out amongst themselves, not having to worry about anything else that is going on behind them. It's Watson 3rd, as I noted, Hamill 4th, and Al Smith Jr. in 5th. The only driver who started outside of the top 5 that's worked their way in is Jake Watson, who's in 3rd, as we go side by side for the race lead. The 69 to the inside, and it is going to be easy peasy for Matt Cucker. He challenged, stayed on the bumper, and when he went to the inside, didn't look like Marinak wanted to waste a lot of time with a fight, and just kind of let him go on the inside, stayed up top, and new race leader at lap 25.
I think that's a smart idea by Marinak, knowing that he's been creeping on him, and maybe what he can do now is find out the line that he's doing. We're going to see the replay here, but he is not going to be able to kind of play behind him and see what's going to see what the line is doing. Perhaps that's what he's doing, perhaps it's not. Cucker's actually driving it a little deeper than Marinak, which is interesting because typically if you are trying to save your tires, you'd want to go a little bit less heavy into the corners, but perhaps Matt Cucker has a strategy that goes in the fact of that it doesn't matter how much you want to save your tires at a place like this, the bottom's where it's at. So it's also a fact that it's bumpy no matter where you go. It's not just bumpy at the bottom, it's bumpy in the middle, it's bumpy at the top of the track. And I think Marinak may be trying to actually search right now. He's at the middle of the track. Yeah, I think he's searching for speed, as a lot of drivers will probably start doing here after 25 laps.
You can see the 65 machine and Jay Dubuque on the inside of the racetrack. He will fall one lap down, pushed up a little bit on Stefan Marinak into the quarter 25. Very aware of his surroundings, moved up, but it made that relatively uneventful as he was able to get past him on the outside of the racetrack. So Jay Dubuque falls a lap down. He's the first driver to just lose the lead lap just under race conditions. The only other driver off of the lead lap is Justin McDuff. who was running third in this race, making maybe a late season push for a chase spot. Found himself into the inside wall. That wrapped up his evening. So Jay Dubuque goes one lap down. Only driver one lap down, actively on track, and if there were to be yellow, would have the opportunity to get right back up front with a wave by. And this is a racetrack that's big enough where I don't think lap traffic is going to be as big of a factor as it is at, I would say, almost most other racetracks we go to. We're going to be going to Langley in 1 week's time for the Remember the Greats 150 regular final race rather on the regular season, I should say. And that one as well going to be a lot more tight quarters. But I think just based on the size of this track, Coop, by the time somebody like a Matt Cucker, despite the fact that Cucker and Marinak are really fast, so they're getting up there at a pretty good rate, but by the time they catch up to the guys at the back of the pack, it's taken X amount of laps. Those guys are so strung out that you're not getting 3-4 guys at a time.
Yeah, very true. I mean, you've got 17 drivers on the lead lap right now, and realistically, that is, you know, with the bigger track, like you said, and they've got a lot more room, too, to do it, as we're going to watch the battle between James McIntyre Jr. and the 13 of Gabe Fortin. Fortin's been trying to work on him for the better half of the last couple of laps, and just has not been able to get it done quite yet, but he's lurking in the distance, and this is pretty important that James McIntyre Jr. Keeps in front of him, because he's not on the cut line, but he's pretty close to it. He's only about 21 points ahead, and any mistake could happen and change that. But he looks like he's pulling away from the 13 right there, as battle for the lead is going to start coming up into play as well.
Yeah, Marinak closed in not all that long ago, and I was kind of breaking down the lap traffic stuff, and I don't know if it was really a mistake at a Cucker, because the 25 made up a lot of time at once, so could assume that, but at least I didn't see any noticeable bobble or anything out of the 69 camp. But Marinak is right back there. And again, you were talking about how he was searching around the racetrack. That could be a combination of things. Either, of course, one, he's probably not happy that he got caught and wants to adjust his line. But it's a lot easier to kind of figure out what Matt Cucker's doing to be fast, Coop, when you're behind him and can literally trace his line, as opposed to trying to figure that out while looking at him in your rearview mirror. So maybe the 25 figured this thing out. He'll go to the inside, and we'll go side by side again. It was just 8 laps ago that Matt Cucker went to the race lead in this race. Stefan Marinak, your pole sitter, wants it back, and he's got it in turn 1.
Here's the thing I was expecting. It looks like he's going to come back on the outside, actually. Here comes Matt Cucker. I didn't know if he was going to be able to clear him quite yet. No, that's exactly what happened. And that outside's hooked up for the number 69, but I think Stefan's going to be able to get it here. The outside on turn number 4 is not as good as the inside is. Inside right there, but it's different in turns 1 and 2. I kind of like that. There's a kind of difference in corners. So Stefan Marinak makes a bobble, makes 2 bobbles, makes almost 3, and he's going to lose not only first but second as well. Where did Jake Watson come from? He's right there in the picture now, and so is AJ Hamill. It's a 4-horse race now.
When these guys were battling for the race lead at lap 25, they were almost 2 seconds in front of Jake Watson and AJ Hamill, and now it is a 4-way battle for the race lead from Rockingham. Lap 36, and another new race leader. It's Jake Watson from 3rd, but hold the phone. Marinak up the inside, won't go to the race lead, but he will pass up Cucker. So the 69 car going to go 1st to 3rd in 1 lap, and this time by Jake Watson's going to lead his first laps of the race as the fight for second continues.
I have a feeling the 25 actually doesn't have as much on his tires as anyone else in this top 4. I'm seeing him really bobble through the corners, or maybe he just messed up, but look at Matt Cucker go all the way up the track. Something else happened in a miss, and now we have a caution flag, so all this action is going to be hesitated here. It looks like Dan Dubuque is slow on the inside on the back straightaway, and we'll have to see exactly what happened. It looks like he might have just got the outside wall.
He had some damage on the right-hand side, so you can only assume that meant he caught the wall at some point, and he got really close to it. That car was just sideways, and it spun around on the back straightaway. Actually almost jumped up over that outside wall, and then spun down and ended up getting about, I think, a damage on all sides of that race car. And not to confuse Dan with Jay. Jay was the Dubuque who was a lap down. Dan Dubuque was still running on the lead lap at the incident in 15th position. That will bring out the caution flag, though, first time this evening. And really, you look at a yellow coupe as an opportunity to really group everybody back up and kind of get set to go at it for the race lead. I don't think we needed it, but we'll see everybody 2 by 2 for a restart. Jake Watson in control of this race. The car's on the apron, maybe thinking about coming in, but he will not go down below that yellow line. That looks like everybody inside of the top 4 in that battle we were looking at stays out front. It's going to be Watson 1, Marinak 2, Hamill 3, and Matt Cocker a race low P4.
Yeah, I find it interesting to state that they don't actually have tires, and with those drivers racing so hard, this is really good for, I think, Marinak and Cucker, because of the fact that they were racing so hard. And you saw how quickly Jake Watson got up there to make the battle really interesting, and he got that lead just based on the fact that they were racing each other so hard. And so then you've got AJ Hamill, who's in this one as well, and we haven't talked about him a whole lot this season, and if he gets a good race, he's going to sit a lot better next week, knowing that he's not the last driver in the chase. So he's thinking about that, I'm sure. And then you got Al Smith Jr., he's also kind of not really thinking about it as much as he's 33 points ahead, but your top 5 is really stout right now, and Jake Watson's going to start leading these guys, and I bet you he's got some of the best tires in his top 4.
Yeah, he didn't really rush to get back up front. It's really when we saw Cucker and Marinak fighting with each other that Watson and Hamill just kind of found themselves on the doorstep and immediately into this. And they were going at it hard, no doubt. I think if we stayed green, they would have started to eat away at those Hoosier Racing tires. But because the yellow came out pretty much right after they got into this thing, weren't pushing it for that long. And especially for Jake, who will be on the front row control car for this one, he'll have a great opportunity to try to leave Marinak, Hamill, and Cucker behind. Seems like the 25 and the 69 just could not get off each other, and they will be bumper to bumper on the outside of rows 1 and 2 respectively at the time this race gets set to go back under green flag racing conditions. Coverage of tonight's Upstate Racing League late models is always brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself the basic download today, or download the full pro version by logging on to joel-real-timing.com. For more information, Joel Real Timing is the official timing software of LSRTV. And if you're just walking in the door, happy to have you with us. Race 9 of this 2018 Upstate Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Pro Late Model Series on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Tonight's coach's quarter 100 is currently pacing at lap number 41 of 100. Second to last race of the regular season before we make the top 10 cut and race for a championship beginning in 2 weeks' time from the Richmond Raceway. The chase is not only fun because, well, we're fighting for the championship, but it's also, I think, a little bit more fun because those races are obviously more important, but they're also a little bit longer. We get all the way up to, from about our average of 100 laps or so, to 150 and then even 200 laps in those later races, which I think provides a unique challenge and definitely separates the style of racing we see in the chase for the regular season as well.
Yeah, and when we get to that chase format, I'm really interested to see if any of these drivers really start to push more than they are normally. As you know, we start to end the regular season, some of these guys may not be trying as hard or maybe pushing it as much as the iRacing official pace car goes. And there goes Jake Watson real early.
Exactly what you want to do if you're in control. Clear by the start-finish line is exactly what the 88 team is looking for. It's going to be Watson to turn 1, single file, I think, all the way back until we find the fight for 7. Scott Naslund outside, it'll be Rex Hoyle inside, and it's 2x2 from them on back. Looks like the 50 will win out for 7.
Yeah, you said, we talked about Scott Naslund earlier being a really hard charger, and now he's going to have to fight the 12 of Brian Rogers Jr. And it looks like he's willing to make it 3 wide, but just, I think he thought better of it, which is probably a good idea at this point in the race. Is he going to try the outside lane really hard into the corner, and he's still trying to get around the 12 right here, and he's going to go try and get Rex Hoyle, who is also had himself a really good day. 13th to 7th, one of the biggest movers. Actually, all 3 of these drivers in this small little pack have been really big movers today as they've come up through the field. Also in battle in front of him, Rasmussen. Haven't talked about him hardly all day. He's in 6th place practically the entire race. He's going to try and get Al Smith Jr., but not right now in the battle for the lead. Also starting to heat up, Jake Watson and Marinak.
And Matt Cucker was also able to make his way up to 3rd, so he gets around AJ Hamill, who's a couple of car lengths off this group. So at the moment, I would say it's more so a battle amongst 3 cars for the top spot, but Hamill not out of it, only 8 tenths back as they run right now. But I think Marinak again feeling the pressure from Knuckle, especially knowing the fact that at least until the 25 maybe figured something out by running behind him for a little bit. Knuckle was better on the progressive long run and caught up to the 25 after Marinak had opened up what I thought was a pretty comfortable gap at a little bit over a half a second. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in relatively short track racing, given the fact that this racetrack is over a mile in length, that is a pretty good interval. And I think Marinak would much rather get around Watson sooner than later, make that 88 machine a buffer between he and the 69 of Knuckle, who's right there as well. 3 drivers for the race lead under a blanket.
Yeah, and really, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room between any of them in a literal sense and in any kind of sense, really, to be honest with you, because any kind of mistake they make is going to be a huge opening. Any mistake is basically tenfold here, because you'll go straight up the track or you'll spin out. As you saw earlier, it looks like the 25 is going to stick his nose down to the bottom in turn number 2, and he's going to be able to get there. He's going to go side by side with Jake Watson, and they're going to go into turn number 3 looking for the lead. You can see the 25's left side tires going all the way past the yellow lines. He's one of the only drivers to really do it. Look at the crossover move. It's going to be there. He goes all the way down to the bottom of the front oval. He's going to still have the inside of him right here.
And that apron's wide open. We really don't see anybody use it at Rockingham. And the inside tight that time is the 88 Watson. Again, if you enter the corner that low, it's going to be tough keeping her down off of the turn. And the 88 machine trying to stick on the inside of Stephanie Marinak. Very good run that time in 3 and 4. Small bobble by Marinak, but it helped him out a little bit. It'll be Jake Watson with those advantage at the start-finish line, and fighting back on the inside of the racetrack will go back to P1. Loose off the corner once more, but enough to get the job done for now.
What I kind of noticed is that Matt Knuckle really didn't push the issue. I think he could have if he wanted to, because if you look behind him, AJ Hamill's really caught back up, but look back up to the lead. Here comes the 25, back on the attack, back on the bottom. It's these two guys really fighting hard as we are now halfway through the race. Marinak gets in there hot. This is going to be a good advantage for the 88.
About as tight as you could get, I think, without getting into each other if they weren't just leaning a little bit. And here's the gamble you take. Try to make a move for the race lead. If it doesn't work out, you're in a bad position. He loses about 6 car lengths down the back alone. And Matt Knuckle had a nose at the outside. Top is still a very difficult place to make moves. So the 69 machine just kind of, I think, was getting up there to mess with the 25 of Marinak. Didn't really make a hard drive in top side. Tucked back in line, and we get back to single file for the time being. But Jake Watson, I think it's the biggest advantage he's had all night, and if the 69 starts fighting with Marinak, it's good news for the 88 machine up front. Not sure how long that'll last, though. It seems like anybody who can get to the inside, and it's pretty easy to get to the inside because these guys run right up against the wall on the straightaways, because again, you want to get that big arc into the corner. So the inside is just wide open. If you're going down and blocking somebody, you're really going to mess up your corner. So it seems like if somebody's committed enough, they'll be able to find their way to the inside. What they can do once they get there is the question, but this racetrack does lend itself to side by side if you're willing to go for it.
You know, something I'm really surprised about is how Stefan Marinak's been able to keep going at this rate. You know, he's really, at least what I think is being one of the most aggressive drivers in the corners, and he's still starting to gain on Jake Watson again. I don't know whether that aggressive style is really rewarding the car or not, but it gets a little wiggly in turn number 3 and 4 as I say that, but I feel like he's been really he's got something figured out here that I just don't know if his tires are on their last leg already or not, but I feel like he's just extremely fast despite being as aggressive as he's been with those tires.
And you have to consider just now passing the halfway point in tonight's Coach's Quarter 100. If your tires are really struggling to this point, you got to figure you're going to at least go about double what you've done up until now. But as we do start to count down towards lap number 100, let's take this opportunity as we cross the halfway point to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing, a visually sanctioned series with the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. As we go side by side for the race lead at the moment, and out of turn 2, it'll be Jake Watson scored as your race leader. Started this race into P6. He leads pole sitter Stefan Baranek, runs into P2 at the moment. Matt Kucker still up to 3rd. AJ Hamill still 8/10 back and 4th, with Nicholas Rasmussen now up to a race high P5. Al Smith Jr. is 6th at the moment. Rex Hoyle, one of your bigger movers, up to 7th position, with Guillaume Fortin P8. He's recovered from that EOL penalty earlier. Brad Rogers Jr. 9th, and Scott Naslund is 10th.
Michael Woodring finds himself in the 11th position, and you've got Wayne McDuff in 12th. Mike Holtzclaw is in 13th, with Jada Buick in 14th. James McIntyre Jr. finds himself the last car on the lead lap, 15th. Then Mark Royer, he's in 16th, 2 laps down. Dan Dubuque, 17th. Alex Orions, 18th. And then you saw Justin McDuff have his little issue earlier on, and he is not going to be making himself back on the track. He'll finish 19th tonight.
A complete look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. 15 cars, as we noted, still scored on the lead lap. Top half of them all within 4 seconds of your race leader at the moment, accounting all the way back to Rex Hoyle in P7 at the moment. This is the longest amount of time that Jake Watson has spent up front consecutively. Again, did bring us back to the green flag, and the caution flag timing helped him out a little bit to get a couple of laps led in the back bucket, but Maranak has been maintained at bay for the moment, 4 car lengths off. Kucker about equidistance back there. Is the 25 and maybe even the 69 as well saving, would you think, and maybe trying to force a little bit lesser experienced Jake Watson into eating up those tires with 40 to go this time by? We'll see 7th spot. Hoyle is kind of in a world of his own at the moment. No real funny going on for, the likes of Smith P6 and Rasmussen in 5th position either. So all eyes definitely northbound on the scoring pylon. And here comes the 25 of Baranek. Just as I'm kind of thinking out loud, hey, are they hanging back? The 25 is going to make a push here within a car length of the 88 machine. And I think that kind of puts Matt Cocker in the catbird seat. Maybe the 25 feeling the pressure from behind, doesn't want to hang back, but you can really see when someone's going for it, Coupe, how low they dip it down in the corner again. Yes, apron's an option on the front straightaway. We don't see it often, but it is a line. Apron in the corners, not so much. And in fact, we saw the issues earlier in this race, I believe, with Jadabu, who spun after getting down there and got a little bit tight coming off of the corner, and that car got looped around. So watch the 25 right there. They're kind of using that to help those cars rotate. It's a dicey move to make, but I guess it kind of shows you that they're going for it.
Yeah, what I was trying to say a second ago, I had my mic muted, was the fact that even if these guys do try and save, looks like, oh, whoa, we got I think that was James McIntyre Jr. who really killed the wall actually on exit, and he's going to be just a small factor here in turn number 1, but he cleared that up. He did a good job of getting out of the way. But these guys, I don't think they're saving at all, and here goes to 25 of Matt Kucker, or 69 of Matt Kucker on the inside. Stefan Baranek made a mistake out of turn number 2. I think he went on the yellow line and got the car real loose, and that's what Matt Kucker was really looking for. Here's where we're going to see the speed, if he has any, against Jake Watson. I think that was the mistake he was looking for. I think he's been waiting, been patient. I think that's really what he's been looking for this whole time, but really big advantage now because of the 69, since the 25 will probably have to let his tires cool after being that sideways.
Well, just that kind of right on cue about equidistance into this run to what we saw in that long stretch earlier in this race. All of a sudden, AJ Hamill is into the picture from 4th position, right back into the 4-car train in a battle for the race lead amongst all of them. Still Watson, Kucker, Baranek, and Hamill. Again, the 18 machine coming into tonight's race. Final spot in the championship. P10 in the points and holding a 14-point advantage over to the next closest driver, to Mike Holtzclaw. Holtzclaw's not having a bad night, but he's gone backwards from where he started and is in 11th position. So big night for Hamill if he can just maintain. I would almost recommend don't even get up there and fight with those guys. It's got pretty dicey amongst them in that first battle before the yellow flag came out. Hamill a P4 tonight would be fantastic for that car, but he's going to be challenged by Nicholas Rasmussen shortly, who again race high P5 at the moment, looks to go top 4 for the first time tonight.
AJ Hamill's actually only had one top 5 this season, so for him to try and get another one, and even if he does lose this position to Nicholas Rasmussen, which there's the battle right there on the inside. Rasmussen, haven't talked about him all day, started 8th and 5th, now makes the press for 4th, and I think he'll get it right here. Yeah, he'll get the position easily, and so that does keep AJ Hamill in the top 5, but Nicholas Rasmussen, who's had 5 top 5s and 5 top 10s, has actually had an up and down season himself, so anytime he's been up there, he's all the other races he has not really. I think that's what those top 5s and top 10s tell you statistically, but other than that, now we've kind of calmed down the top 5, and I think everyone else is really spread out here. Perhaps the closest battle is right there in that top pack here.
And again, want to, kind of jump around the field, but everybody else has at least a half to a full second apart compared to the guys up front, who again right now is at least the top 3 within 7/10 of a second of each other at this current moment. So, you look at the way that things run now, Cameron deserves to be all the way up at the front of the field, and again, Marinak kind of makes a surge and then drops back a little bit and then surges again and drops back a couple of car lengths. And I haven't been able to figure out, is that him just kind of toying with the 88? Is he really pushing it? But they have started to gap Marinak, which is pretty big. So, Matt Kucker in a position now where he's not feeling that pressure from behind like Marinak was. When we were talking about the 25 on the back bumper of Watson, Kucker was right there. Kucker's got plenty of time behind him, 7/10 to the good. In fact, I think this is the slowest and lowest we've seen Marinak all night long. So the 69 in a much better position with 29 to go.
I don't think he's toying with him because we have less than 30 laps to go, getting close to the 3/4 mark. He might be sizing him up, but I don't think he's going to be able to save very much because Jake Watson wasn't using his tires nearly as much as Kucker and Marinak were when they had their little bout earlier on in the race around, I think, lap 35 or 40 or somewhere in there, and then the caution came out, which realistically, I think if that went green, it was going to be a really good run for Jake Watson, but that caution slowed everything down. But nonetheless, Matt Kucker as well, I think he might have been saving behind Stefan Marinak just a little bit, and so I don't know if Jake Watson was really pushing it at all, but nonetheless, Matt Kucker actually is coming just a little bit each lap. He's got himself only a 1 car length difference. They've got the 65 to deal with right here, which might play a little bit of an interesting. Yep, he's going to be a little bit in the way just out of the corner, but these guys still go side, or they don't go side by side, but they're still nose to tail right now.
So Kucker continues to pressure from second, your current leader in the Brian Rogers Motorsports Slamming the Do Rookie of the Year standings. 3 wins so far to this point, looking to get number 4. If you could close this thing out, it is a completely different story. The driver scored in the first position right now, Jake Watson, just getting on track. He is the 2nd place in the rookie championship standings already with a win this year. He looks to become just a 3rd driver to get multiple trips to victory lane if he can hang on. 25 to go, and I don't know if about me or just you as well, Coop, but those opening 40 laps seem to go by really quick. These closing 40 really slow, and Watson's thinking the same thing. All kinds of sideways. He will save it, but we'll go side by side.
Holy cow, I don't know how he saved it, but Kucker now needs to put the pressure on because Watson, that was something we never have seen from him. It was just all of a sudden a humongous bobble out of 4, and Kucker was right there to pounce, and he didn't push the issue, but now he is. He's right there making any mistake humongous, but there he's going to go on the inside. There goes Kucker down to the bottom of the track.
Rogers now has the preferred positioning, gives the 69 a much better chance at going for the race lead than when Watson made that mistake and Kucker went to the outside of the racetrack. How much does the tires remain on the 88 of Watson? That car slid for a good 100 feet off of turn 4, and I promise you, he did not roll out of the gas because he saved all of that momentum, and he is still not willing to give up topside, using those extra 3 degrees of banking to stay there. But Kucker leads that time by, and will have half a car length advantage this time to 1 and 2.
Look at the run the 88 has at a turn number 1 and then a turn 2. It's not going to be enough, but that's a really big run for him. And You know, I say that the turns 3 and 4 really favors the bottom, and so we'll have to see if he's able to rally. But I think the 69 might have it here, but he stays strong, and that's going to be clear for the number 69. I think for the first time that he's ever been solidly in the lead like this.
It's going to go again top side of the racetrack, but it is going to be finally Matt Knuckle completely clearing Jake Watson for the race lead here tonight from Rockingham. So the 69 machine, Matt Knuckle, putting himself in position to get his 4th win on the year as he clears up on the outside of the racetrack. Jake Watson, tough break, went on it for so long. And now looks like that his night may be done, as that car is no longer being actively scored on the racetrack. Marinak is going to move up and be given 2nd position as they run at the moment. So are we done yet? Because it looked like that might have been the battle to end it all, but anytime you get somebody side by side, you're slowing each other down. And I don't know what Marinak has left, but he did close 0.3 of a second. He is only half a second off of the back of Matt Knuckle right there. It looks like a better lap of that time by for the 69. Increases that gap just a tad bit, but Marinak does not want to give this one up. It's 3.8 seconds back to Nicholas Rasmussen, who again gains a position. AJ Hamill moves another one up in P4, still looking for the 2nd top 5 on the year. But the guys up front not done yet, inside of 20 laps to go. Is there one more ball to drop?
Yeah, and it looks like Jake Watson had unforeseeably been exited out of the server for some reason. He's coming back now, but looks like just very sad irony for him, as he just got passed by Matt Knuckle for that to happen. And so he'll try and get back on the racetrack surface. Looks like he's getting back in, but I don't know if he's going to be able to make any of that up. He's going to be multiple laps down. So that was the closest battle we had for the lead until he had fell out, of course. I mean, we were watching it actively as he just fell through, and then you've got Marinak, who might actually have something for him. I mean, it's hard to say right now. He was a 10th slower that last lap, but you know, anything can happen with the next about 15, 16, 17 laps to go.
And the question remains, do we stay green up until that point? Now matching the longest green flag run we have seen this evening. If we stay under green flag racing conditions through the end of this thing, then we will have the longest green flag run in the race all the way to the end of it, which would be quite the unique way that, you know, this race could end out. Typically, you expect, you know, short runs early, long run in the middle, and a couple of late race restarts. With the size that this Rockingham Speedway lends itself to, they let everybody get nice and spread out. You're talking about, yes, your race leaders are half a second apart, but it is a 5-second gap to Rasmussen 3rd, another 2.5 seconds from him to Hamill, 2 seconds from him to Smith. So really, you got everybody running around by themselves, with maybe the exception of a fight for 8th and 9th between Scott Naslund and Brian Rogers Jr. That and the fight for the race lead, really the only thing going on.
Yeah, I think getting closer and closer to Naslund. You know, you talk about these drivers that that really need to get into that that top 10, and you know, these two guys, Holtzclaw, Ime Fortin. I think Naslund's pretty steady in 7th, yeah, but he still needs to have good races as well. And I think if he finishes where he's at right now, he'll actually, I think, be locked in if he just arrives to the track next week. It's 20 points to the good in front of the cut line before the race. I think this will definitely settle him in nicely, and this is an extremely a large car field or car count next week. But Mike Holtzclaw in particular is one that definitely I think is, one, about to be lapped, and two, needing of a big miracle, because this could really push him out further than he is wanting between now and next week, as yeah, he just got lapped right there with about just under 15 laps to go.
And Marinak does close on the intervals, and now down to 0.4 of a second. I think it's the closest these two have been in quite some time. Knuckle's last lap was a 25.707 compared to the 25.636 by Stefan Marinak. Also want to update you on Jake Watson, who is battling for the race lead. He received a throughput fall to an unacceptable level. He has reconnected to the session. A tough break for him as he runs 3 laps down, scored in 13th position as they run at the moment. I mean, I probably still had an opportunity, to be honest, to get back and fight with Matt Knuckle. I feel like, if anything, you would have felt maybe worse if that happened to you while leading. Knuckle had just completed the pass and was looking to run away when that did happen. Nonetheless, tough break for Jake Watson. Win number 2 on the year will not come this evening, but I think made a very clear point that he is going to have an opportunity to make some real noise when the chase starts here in a couple of weeks' time. 10 laps to go for Matt Knuckle this time by Stefan Baranek has fallen to 1.1 seconds off. The gap between the top two has doubled, and a 69 now just trying to keep her in one piece. No pressure from behind as Baranek fades late.
Yeah, Baranek is trying everything he can. He's going to have 10 laps to try and throw something at it, but he's still rolling with it. You know, he's got himself in third, and then Nicholas Rasmussen finds him slowly and steadily in the 7th position. Or not 7th position, the 3rd position, but he's really far back as a lot of other drivers are. He's 7, almost 8 seconds back behind these guys. I mean, while Matt Knuckle is going through 3 and 4, or running out of 4, he's going into 3 right now. So that's just that's how big the lead is, and almost 1/3 of the track he's ahead of him. So that's the lead that these two have, and Baranek did get a big chunk between himself and Matt Knuckle there, about 2/10. So if he continues at that rate, it would be a close battle. Of course, he's still got to get around Matt Knuckle, but like you said earlier, between these two drivers, I think this definitely is something that they expect to kind of size him up for the 5 races to come after the chase happens. I mean, he's getting a little bit more this time too, but it's gonna be a tall task to get 8/10 with under 7 laps to go here.
And it's going to be tough to compare Rockingham specifically to those tracks. We've got a wide array of different kind of races coming up. Langley going to be the final race of the regular season in 1 week's time, and then the 5 chase races will take us to Richmond, Oxford, Southern National, Myrtle Beach, and of course New Smyrna Speedway to close all things out and crown the champion of this 2018 Upset Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Pro Late Model Series. Almost at the point now with no return. This time by going to be 6 laps left on the board. The next time around at 5 to go will mean that if a caution were to come out from that point on, would not have enough time to restart this race, and we would pace to the end. So we are going to end, regardless if it goes all the way to the end this race on the longest green flag stretch of the night. Matt Knuckle 1.3 seconds in front. I think Baranek tapping out at this point, and he hits the wall, and there goes Baranek. The 25 hits the wall at a turn 2 into the inside wall as well.
Wow, that was a big hit on the inside and the outside. I think the outside was bigger than the first one, but yeah, that's almost the exact same mistake he made at the very beginning of the race, and this time with with much more worn down tires. That's gonna set that one done for him basically. And funny enough, he's still gonna be able to salvage second, I think. But you know, Nicholas Rasmussen is not going to sit idle either. So you know, between him having that accident, he's still going. I don't know how it is, but he pounded the inside and the outside wall in the backstretch.
And he's got, again, a huge gap to Rasmussen, as you said, still 5 seconds in front of him. And kind of said I think Baranek was giving up. Maybe he should have backed it off. He was just really overdriving that car. I'm sure maybe a tad bit of frustration because I'm sure the 25, you know, given a little bit of different circumstances, different positioning, when that yellow comes out at about lap 40, could have been in victory lane in this one. And the gap may be big enough to ensure that he can limp her home for a second place result still. I don't think Rasmussen is close enough to challenge. So in the end, it doesn't really matter. But Stefan Baranek, again, will definitely take the points for second position tonight. Matt Knuckle will gain a little bit. He will be the first driver, assuming he can hold on for 2 more laps to get the 4 wins on the year. Both of them had 3 coming into tonight. But at the end of the day, Baranek will maintain as your championship points leader.
Yeah, I'm watching Matt Knuckle go through the next couple laps as he's got 2 laps to go, but he's not also he made a little bit of audible there, just a little bit. I mean, it was in the middle of the corner, not in the exit, so it wasn't detrimental. But getting around these lap cars is not an easy task, especially when he just wants to continue to set the pace that he is. I mean, he could just as easily stay behind the 33 right here as he's going to lap him right here on this final lap as we have the white flag, but he's still keeping the pace as if he had people behind him, I'd say.
And it is the final lap from Rockingham Speedway. White flag is in the air for Matt Knuckle, who is all on his lonesome to turn number 3. A fun race this evening for us because it was hotly contested up front. Matt Knuckle, though, at the end of the day, too good to slow down. He'll take his 4th win on the year and win tonight's Coaches Quarter 100 from the Rock.
I think it was said by none other than Justin McDuff in the comment section that really surgical and smooth. I think that is a very good way to describe how he was tonight. Just very precise in what he was doing tonight, and realistically, he's going to be one of the drivers you're looking to beat when it comes to the series and the championship. So he wins a lot. He won a lot last night, and so he won tonight. So back-to-back LSRTV wins, as he won 3 races yesterday in the CEA Tour, and then he's also going to win tonight.
Well, that's why I always think it's funny talking about Matt Knuckle as the rookie and leading the rookie points. And yes, this is his first season of Upstate Racing League competition, but a very familiar name with the short tracks, especially with us here at LSRTV. And don't let that R next to his name confuse you as to why he's been so good this year. He will definitely be one of the favorites as the championship gets started. And now just one more week, because 9 down and 1 to go in a regular season, as Matt Knuckle wins the penultimate regular season race here tonight from Rockingham. And one of the fun places about this track is you can park it right there down in Victory Lane. We'll take this opportunity to step aside. We'll head down trackside and get a word with the race winner when we come back. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Upstate Racing League, a white knuckle clothing Pro Late Model Series, on your home for sim racing at iRacing Live, the post-race show, when we come back.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV, and it may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. And welcome back live to the Rockingham Speedway for the LSRTV post-race show following tonight's Coaches Quarter 100, part of the Upstate Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Pro Late Model Series. Coverage tonight brought to you by Coaches Quarter. Newly opened in South Glen Falls, New York, Coaches Quarter is locally owned and family ran by Coach C himself. Open 7 days a week from 7 to 2 and open late on Thursdays to 8 o'clock p.m. Stop by today, because there's no place like home. Coaches Quarter, proud sponsor of tonight's Coaches Quarter 100. We'll have an opportunity to chat with the race winner as well as some of your top finishers in just a moment. Before we do toss the microphones down, we take a look top to bottom at tonight's LSRTV full race results. Matt Knuckle goes to victory lane in this one, a 4th win on the season. Championship leader and pole sitter tonight, Stefan Marinak, ends up in 2nd, and Nicholas Rasmussen comes home in 3rd. We'll get a word with all of them momentarily. AJ Hamill with the P4 and Al Smith Jr. with the P5. Round out your top 5 finishers this evening. Good results for the likes of Rex Hoyle in 6th, and Guillaume Fortin defending his chase spot in 7th. He's also the final driver to finish on the lead lap. 8th position is Scott Naslund. Brian Rogers Jr. 9th, and Mike Holtzclaw rounds out the top 10.
Finishing 11th is Michael Woodring. Then you've got Jay Dubuque finishing 12th. Jake Watson 13th after the disconnection earlier. And then you have James McIntyre Jr. 14th. Wayne McDuff 15th. 16th goes to Mark Royer. 17th Dan Dubuque. Alex Oriens 18th. And Justin McDuff finishes 19th.
Looks at the bottom at your LSRTV full race results. Let's go downstairs and chat with your race winner tonight. 4th on the season for the driver of the 69 machine. Matt Kunker is your winner tonight from the Rockingham Speedway. Matt, congratulations on the win. Keeping you busy here as we get back into the swing of racing things. You guys found a victory lanes a couple of times last night, and you do it again this evening, but this one did not go uncontested. Not only were you fighting with Stefan, which has kind of been a common theme all season, but we saw the likes of AJ Hamill up into the mix as well. Jake Watson was right there, and there were times in this race when you were up in front, and there were times in this race where you were 4th out of 4 cars in a battle up front, but at the end of the day, you park it in victory lane.
Yeah, the first run before we had the first yellow there, I really pushed the car. Although I felt like I was saving, I was lifting real early and letting the car roll in. I burned off the right rear, and I just had to fall back and cool it down a little bit. And then I knew for the last run there, we had to push the car into the corner to try to burn off the right front and save the right rear. And luckily enough, that's what worked out, is just had to push the car, get in the corner, and now we're off that right rear again.
This racetrack obviously very different than some of the other ones we've been to, but, All-Star race a couple of weeks back was at New Hampshire. Other than that, though, as far as maybe Iowa, Martinsville earlier on, a very big racetrack compared to what we're seeing. How did that kind of affect things? Definitely we saw long green flag runs, and I feel like that had to at least be in part because of that.
Yeah, the bigger tracks, they're usually common for the longer green flag runs, except for some tracks that are a little bit worse than others. But this one, I actually thought we were going to have a couple more yellows with how much the tires wore off and you got loose. And that car was a handful at the end there. So I was very surprised that we didn't have any more yellows.
We kind of talk about how these races don't matter all that much. Yes, you get the win. You can get a couple of bonus points for when the chase starts, but we kind of think it's fun just seeing, you and Stefan and Nicholas and all those guys going at it up front, kind of a sneak peek of things to come when the chase starts. Are you guys kind of at the point now where you're kind of itching to get the chase going, or are you still maybe picking up a couple of tidbits of information and learning in these last couple of weeks as well?
I mean, it's just trying to be consistent. That's the only thing I'm trying to learn every week in and week out on iRacing here, is just be consistent. Try to hit your marks over and over again, so that way when this chase does come, that's what I can focus on the most, is try to hit my marks, save tires, and go.
We'll let you get out of here. It was a good win for you guys. Before we do, though, we go into next week. It'll be at Langley Speedway. That's the last one on the regular season. And one of the short tracks that doesn't get, popped up in as many short track racing league schedules, I think, as some of us would like to see. It's a fun place. What's your experience level there? And can you guys expect a similar result?
Yeah, I love Langley, just like I love Oxford. Those real tight, short, small, bold tracks, I like to call them. It's just a circle pretty much, and I love those kind of tracks. They're a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll be able to be a contender there.
The sponsors and the shout-outs, all those folks behind the scenes. Matt, who makes it happen for you?
I thank T. Vince here, Globalcom, I Analyze, Al Smith Jr. and White Knuckle Clothing for putting the show on, and you guys for broadcasting. Thank you.
The race winner in tonight's Coaches Quarter 100, Matt Kunker, gets the win of 4th on the year for him. Matt, we appreciate the time as always. Congratulations. Best of luck going forward into the rest of this season. If you don't get an opportunity until then, though, best of luck in the chase as well, and I'm sure we'll chat then. All
righty, thank you.
Race winner tonight from the Rock, Matt Kunker gets another one. Stefan Baranek comes home in 2nd tonight. Nicholas Rasmussen is in 3rd. Trackside with both of those drivers is Austin Coop, first with the driver of the 25, who comes home in 2nd.
Yeah, I got to be seated here with Stefan Baranek, who finishes 2nd. Stefan, you made a really good bid during a lot of portions of the race. When it came down to the end, it seemed like the tires were really getting away from you, and we saw you, unfortunately, you get in the wall pretty hard. Talk about us with your race and exactly what the difference was between P1 and P2.
I really can't tell you. It's just I got to give a shout out to Matt Coker and Jake Watson. I haven't had a race for the lead like that in a really long time on here. But yeah, it got worse and worse. And then at the end, I couldn't control it. I bounced off outside wall, hit the inside wall, and it actually kind of helped me because the car drove better. So I was able to bring it along to the finish, and that's probably the ugliest second I've ever gotten.
And going into the into next race, you are basically locked in. I think even if you skip next week, you're basically in. I think it would have been the same if you skipped tonight's race too. But knowing that you really don't have to worry about anything tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week, does that give you a different strategy going into next week's race, or is it going to be kind of the same for you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just going in and trying to win next week. I don't know how I'm gonna do there, but yeah, I mean, I can take more risks next week, I guess. I kind of want to keep my top 5 streak going, but if it comes down to it next week, I don't ever have to worry about points. So I might be able to make a move that I wouldn't have been able to make. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm excited to get the chase started.
Yeah, next week is Landing Lane. You do talk about your top 5 streak. It is it's pretty impressive that you haven't faltered once this season for the top 5s, and which means you actually have been a little bit lucky, I'd say, but and due in part to you always being up there towards the front. Is there any particular reason why you think you're up there? Has it just kind of been something you've been really working at?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me this year has just been qualifying. I didn't really qualify too well in any of the races last year, and I had to fight my way from the back pretty much all the races. And I get involved in wrecks around mid-pack. And this year, I've been qualifying up front. Like I've started in the top 5 for most of the races this year, and usually when the trouble happens, I'm in front of it. So that's been a huge deal for me. It's a difference maker.
Well, we will let you get to it, and before we let you go, we'll let you have the floor for who makes it happen and any shout-outs you have to give.
Yeah, White Knuckle Clothing for sponsoring the series, and Coach's Corner for sponsoring the race, and everyone at Upstate Racing League, all the admins, drivers. That was a hell of a race tonight. I literally thought this was probably going to be the worst race of the season. It was probably the best. And I also want to give a shout out to my graphics page, Mach 1 Racing Graphics, and also you guys for doing the broadcast.
There you have it. Stefan Marinick finishes second tonight, and I'll roll down to the next driver, which will be Nicholas Rasmussen, who finishes a solid third. Very quiet night for you, Nicholas. You started in 8th and got yourself all the way to 3rd, and we saw you a couple times tonight making some moves, but realistically, it looks like you just kind of had yourself a very solid evening.
Yeah, it was kind of the plan, to be honest. Track temperature was really, really hot up there, and I knew that if I were to have any realistic chance, I had to save my tires and try and be there at the end, to be honest. It was really tricky out there. And I actually expected more cautions towards the end of the race, simply because of the track temperature and people sliding around, but it never really happened. But to be honest, like I looked at it all with about 10 to go, realizing that there's not going to be a caution, and well, it was a quiet night, a pretty what do we call it? The strategy was just to hang back, save tires until the end, and still got us P3, so I'm happy with that.
And like I talked about with Stefan Marinick, this basically locks you into the chase. And so next week it'll be Lanier that you guys go to. Any type of any kind of strategies you're going to go there, knowing that you have kind of nothing to lose there, and that you'll be going into it. There is a bonus point, I do believe, if you win a race, and so there's always the incentive to get that. But is there anything else that you're planning to gain from next week?
Yeah, I kind of want to win a race, to be honest. But no, like my entire strategy for not only the race next time, but the whole remainder of the season is just to have fun and enjoy it, and like have fun at it, because, well, I'm not going to be around next season. Who knows if I'll be back someday, but I'm just going to have fun, enjoy it, soak it all in, and give it all I have, and see if we can bring home another championship at the end. Would be nice.
Well, you're 41 points behind Marinak, which really doesn't matter, but that means you'll, since Sean Cool didn't show tonight, he'll be about 2 points behind him. So there might be a little bit of extra incentive to get another spot on the champion standings before it's all over. But before we let you go there, Nicholas, as always, we give you the floor for shout-outs and sponsors.
Yeah, huge thank you to Coach's Corner for sponsoring the event. L. Smith Jr. as always, the league admin, doing a fantastic job for us all. Shout out to Jake as well. He disconnected during the race with some, I believe it was computer issues. Sorry to see that. He definitely deserved better. And yeah, gotta thank you guys for making the awesome broadcast, and my team Gaps Sim Racing team for all the hard work that they do. Really appreciate that.
All right, there you have it. Nicholas Rasmussen finishes third, and I'll throw it back to Evan. And Evan, we have only one more race before we get to chase time here soon.
Yeah, the chase gets underway from Richmond, and before we get to Richmond, we have to go through Langley, and that'll be the Remember the Greats What a 50 photo race of the regular season. Tonight, I think, just did a little bit more. You want to talk about guys, in and around the cut line. AJ Hamel, great race, comes in fourth. Guillemets Fortin recovers from an AOL early, comes in seventh. Mike Holtzclaw was on the wrong side. A P10's going to hurt him tonight. Brad Rogers Jr., not terrible, a P9. But when the guys in front of you are finishing better, it doesn't help your case out at all. Rex Hoyle gains a little bit, and he might end up at about the first or second spot out. Still at a double-digit deficit, I think, but nothing is impossible, and there's going to be a lot on the line in 1 week's time for sure. And at that point, and only at that point, can we guarantee the 10 names will be fighting for the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Just a few drivers really have to show up. I think your top 6 realistically can pretty much just race next week and be fine. If anyone misses a race, it would be outside of the top 6. I think they would be in a big jeopardy. But I think realistically, the 9th and 10th place position drivers, I think that might include Guillemets Fortin. I don't think it'll include AJ Hamel anymore. So it'll probably be James McIntyre Jr. and Guillemets Fortin. Those will be the 2 drivers that will have to really watch out next week and make sure they get good races. But even them, as long as they get a top 10 or something close to it and they don't win, anyone outside the top 10 doesn't win, they should be fine. So I think it's almost wrapped up, but like you said, it's never final until it is.
And the good news is you don't have to wait until Langley for some more, just not even, in general racing, but as well short track racing. We've got plenty of stuff coming up here on LSRTV at our Racing Live. And with the new 2018 year in effect, we've also got a couple of new leagues joining us, and we're excited to see them tomorrow. It is the return of the Super Speedway Cup Series with a little bit of a new look and a new format. So we hope that you join us for some of the preseason Thunder activities with the Super Speedway Cup Series. That's tomorrow at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Saturday, we start our Saturday doubleheaders at 9 o'clock. It is the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series, making its LSRTV debut with live coverage at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, immediately followed by the United Sim Racing BNC Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series at 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Of course, you can find a full upcoming broadcast schedule on our website at livesimracing.com. But the best way to keep up to date with us is following us on social media, on Twitter at LSRTV, and on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. Until next time, though, on behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for the folks behind the scenes, Laura Lawson, and everybody else who makes it work night in and night out, and of course for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop, and our producer Cisco Scaramuso, I want to thank you for joining us and congratulate Matt Cucker, win number 4, and he tightens up the championship standings going into the final race of the season from Langley Speedway. That race and every race of the Upstate Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Pro Late Model Series can be found right here at LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.